thought for the day: how to change your self-image. How to change your self-image. So here's what I want us to think about today. Who here is someone who tends to procrastinate on things? Raise your hand if you're a procrastinator. Okay. So here's the deal. I want you to think about if you can even remember when you were a kid. Sorry, it's very bright in here. I'm like, why am I squinting? Just close these. Okay. When you were a kid, where did you learn procrastination from? That's something I want you to start with looking at today. Where did you learn procrastination from? The idea of do it later. So procrastination is the idea of do it later. So a lot of us procrastinate, maybe not in all areas, but with some things you're like, I'll always do that one later, right? It's like that one thing, everything else, but this one thing, I'll do it later. So here's the deal. When we say that we're going to do something later and we put it off, we create a habit pattern around putting things off. And it gets easier every time to put it off. Does that make sense? Now, the trouble with this is that our self-image, our self-concept, our self-esteem is very much built on self-trust. We've talked about that before. That's why when we create our day every day, we're honoring a commitment to ourselves. And when we don't honor the commitment to ourselves, we do what? We decrease our self-trust. This is such a fundamental piece of this program, is building the habit of honoring our words so we can increase our trust with ourselves. Yeah. So the first thing I want you to do is this right now is make a list of all the places that you're procrastinating. Okay. Make a list of all the places you're procrastinating. And if you want to share in the chat some places you're procrastinating, then that's a good idea. Now, if you're someone that tends to procrastinate, then we have to start in small bites, okay? Because I truly believe that the little things compound and swing open huge doors. See, everyone's always looking for the big breakthrough, like the big thing, the big thing. But it's like, if you're like, okay, so even think about it, it's like, if you eat healthy all the time and you have one bad meal, it's very different than having a lot of bad meals all the time. So it's not the one thing that you do, it's the compounded things that you do that make a difference. So we're going to look at this idea of, rather than thinking about the big thing, it's like, how can I take the little things that I keep pushing off to later and changing that right now? So let me give you an example. Let's say you're like, you procrastinate on taking out the garbage or making your bed. I'll do it later. Okay, so this is the homework. This is important because we're going to start to rewire the brain. The minute you think about the thing that you need to do, you have to get up and do it immediately. I'm going to say this again because I'm going to get a lot of like, yeah, buts and how abouts and what ifs and like the dog died and COVID and like all the stories. So here's the deal. The minute you think about doing something, oh crap, I have to make the bed. I forgot to make the bed. And then you say, I'll do it later. I'll do it later is the worst thing that you can say to your subconscious mind. Because it gets you off the hook to do it and you end up pushing it off. So you're not building self-concept. So the minute you think about the little thing, oh, I said I was going to do this, do it immediately. Now the difference is if it's something that you need to schedule in order to do, then schedule it immediately to do tomorrow. Does that make sense? Not I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later. So it's like if I'm sitting here, obviously I'm not going to get up in the middle of this call and do it, but it's like if I think of it's like, hold on guys, wait, I'm just going to go make my bed. Like if I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, I have to do that thing. We're packing for floor. It's like, I got to pack that thing. I'll put in my mind the minute we get off this call, I'm going to go do it. Now I know that might seem like a small thing, but the small things add up because here's the deal. Everything that you put to later, your subconscious mind goes, I know she's not going to really do this. Or he's not going to really do this. How you do one thing is how you do most things. So the idea is this, like there are a couple things that I learned from my parents who were very disciplined, but it was like little things like when you wake up, like get up. So don't, like, I wasn't one to snooze the alarm. Okay. That's an example. It's like, it creates a discipline in the mind to be like, when I'm up, I'm up. Okay. It's like a discipline to always make the bed. It's like I know it's like very German engineered, but like there are ways where that really worked in my life. So it's like when I think of a small thing, I just do it when I think of it. And that rewires the pattern of procrastination, because procrastination is what? You believe that it's not as important to do now and you're going to push it off to later. So when you create your day and you're like, here are my daily commitments, do you leave your commitments to the end of the day or do you do them at the beginning of the day? Have you thought of that? Okay, how many, let me ask you this. How many of you are not honoring your commitments every day? Raise your hand if you're having trouble not honoring. Okay, this is mucho terrible at this point. This is not good. This is why I'm having this conversation. What is that doing to your self-esteem? Put that in the chat. So mucho terrible, we're not honoring commitments. Not you're bad and wrong. It's just not a good idea to be doing that anymore at this part of the process. Why? You're building a self-concept that you don't trust yourself to honor your word. So either the commitment is too great for you to honor and you're kidding yourself in how much you can do in a day, or you're just not honoring your word because other things are taking priority, or it's a sabotaging strategy. So we have to start at ground zero. Okay. So wherever you are in the process, if you're not honoring your daily commitments every day, put in the chat which of those 3 reasons you're not honoring. Either you've put too much and it's unrealistic, either something else is coming up that's distracting you. Number 3, it's a sabotage. I'm creating the big of a commitment too big and I'm learning what I need to scale back. Yeah. Okay. Too much and something else comes up. All three sabotage. Okay. Very good. So this conversation is very important. All 3. Okay. I can't predict my energy and how I'll feel these days, which is hard. Okay. So here's the deal. Other priorities. Okay. So then you have to start over at the beginning for yourself. This is how I want you to look at it. Not from a punishment, from a rewiring the brain. Does everyone hear what I'm saying here? This is not like a punishment. This is, it takes 21 days to start to make habits. And if you're in the 21-day pattern of not honoring your word, what's the habit pattern that you've just created? I say I'm going to do something and I don't. So if I were you, I would take this is the first day of another 21-day cycle. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. So this is not like, it's like a 75 hard, John. Like for those of you who've heard of Andy Frisello's 75 hard. Okay. Andy Frisello's program, which whether you agree with it or disagree, it doesn't really matter. The idea is that you do this program for 75 days in a row to build the pattern. But if you fuck up on one day, you start back at day 1. Now, this is not a punishment. It's that your mind has now tricked itself into believing that other things are more of a priority. So today should be day 1 for a lot of you of, okay, I am going to only put in my daily commitments what I know that I will fulfill on no matter what. Start with the small bites. Like I know I'll do this today. Okay, going in my commitments. I know I'm going to do this. And then it's like you build the confidence. Notice the word confidence. We lose confidence in ourselves when we don't honor our word. Yes or no? Saying I'm going to climb Mount Everest today is not a realistic goal if I'm not even in the right country to climb Mount Everest today. Do you see where I'm going? Some of you are in completely other parts of the world. You're like, you're in Timbuktu and you got to be in Arizona. Like you're so far from where you need to be on the planet to climb Mount Everest. But it's very sexy to want the big thing. But I am telling you, I trained myself with the small things, like wake up, feet hit the floor, make the bed. Wake up, this, meditate. Like you train your body to to do the thing without thinking about the thing. I don't have to think about the thing anymore because it's a habit. And if I catch myself slipping on ever saying I'll do something later, like that, those were words that Proctor, as an example, said, never say I'll do it later. It's a very bad thing to say to your subconscious mind. It's actually kind of bullshitting yourself, to be honest. What is more important than honoring your word to yourself? Have you asked that question to yourself? What is more important than honoring my word? So here's what we're going to do. Everybody, I want you to start at day one right now in your mind, okay? Even if you've been really good at this, let's all just start back at day one, okay? Whether you've created your day or not, it's still early. So look back at your create the day after we get off our call and say, have I put anything on here that is going to have me find evidence that I can't do it to prove to myself that I don't trust myself to follow through? Has anyone put something on their create the day today that they're like, I know I'm not really going to do this? If you have, take it out, okay? Or ask yourself, can I do this? Be realistic with yourself. And let's build progressively, because I really want all of you to feel as though when you put something on a piece of paper, like you create the day and you're like, like the sun is going to rise, that you're going to honor this no matter what. Okay, is that a different context for you to look at create the day? Okay, very good. So this is how we're going to change our self-image. If you're a procrastinator, make a list. Where are you procrastinating? And I want to see in the chat, where are people predominantly procrastinating? You see, and the procrastination sounds like I'll do it later or some other reason or excuse why you're pushing it off. I want to see, put in the chat so I can see where you're procrastinating. Yeah, well, I will do it later, but with what? Yeah, administrative work, okay? That can be delegated. Focus is work and I procrastinate my health. Yes. Sleeping is a good example for me. Meditation, time for myself, hiring an assistant. Okay, so they're usually in places no one else will see, notice. Interesting. Admin, urgent takes priority over important. Yeah, anything writing related. Okay, so also the big program I'm trying to polish. Okay, great. So today, whatever you're procrastinating, start doing. You can trick your subconscious mind by doing it. Like the minute you think about it, this is what I want you to practice. The minute the thing comes to mind, it's like you have to do something with your administrative work. Do it, just get it done, or delegate it, defer it to somebody, or hire a team. Okay. Patient charts, admin taxes. Yeah, those are all things you don't need to be doing. Those are things that can be delegated. Certain things can be delegated. If you're a leader and you don't need to be doing your taxes, delegated to an accountant. If you need to find a team member and you're waiting on that, you're actually stopping yourself from bringing in business because you know that you can't handle more work unless you hire a team. This is all the bottleneck of your business. Your bottleneck of your business is like the places that you don't want to look and the things you don't want to change that are keeping you stuck. Okay. So we're building our self-concept. We're starting at day one today and saying, my create the day is so sacred that what I put on it, I know I'm going to follow through. Now, here's the last thing I'll say before I let you go. In The Science of Getting Rich, Waddles, he devoted 2 chapters to the use of the will, which is our ability to focus. Okay. Here's what I found to be true, and raise your hand if this makes sense. You have more focus in the first half of the day than you do in the latter half of the day. Yes? Okay. Why are you leaving important things till later then? So number one, you're not giving it your best energy. Let me tell you something. Every hour in your day is not the same quality of hour. Have you ever noticed that? I know I'm not great between like 3 and 5 p.m., which is why I never offer courses at that time. I'm not going to show up in the best of my energy. You get the best out of my hours every day. Do you know that? You get my best hours. I'm not going to give you my worst hours. So I don't care if people are like, well, I like 5 o'clock classes. It's like, great, go find another coach. I'm not going to do a 5 o'clock class. That doesn't work for me. So it's like, I give you my best hours, but I'm not going to give my worst hours. So you have to ask yourself, okay, I said I'm going to create my day this way, but also what hours of the day are those going into? If I know I'm not reliable between 3 and 5 p.m., why the heck am I scheduling a class at 3 and 5 to 5 p.m.? Because other people like that time? This is no good because you're not going to be your best. Are also all hours created equally? No. I'm going to talk more about this when we talk about trading time for money. Is the hour that a baby is, like, let's say your baby is born into the world, that one first hour is the most sacred hour you're ever going to have with your child. Are you ever going to trade for that hour for money? No. Not all hours are created the same, guys. So when you're all like, what do you charge per hour? We're going to have a whole conversation on that, because not all time is created the same. And if you're not giving your best hours to the thing that you're doing, what is that about? Does that make sense? So you also want to think about, when you create the day, that if you know you're more reliable, let's say before noon or 1 p.m., you're like, that's my time where I shine, then get that stuff done before 1 o'clock. Okay? Okay, very cool. So that's what your homework is today. When you think about something, do it now. Do not ever say, never say, I'll do it later. That was knocked out of my consciousness. Like, that is a very bad word coming out of your mouth. Don't say, I'll do it later. Do it now. If it needs to be scheduled for later, that's different. Okay. And let me know how that all goes. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see some of you for your Q&A. Okay.